You know how anime always has a character show up at the start, the first episode, and then they disappear, and you know that they know everything there is about the universe, they know every little detail about every single character, and that at some point at the end of the arc, they may come in and just save the day. Shanks is that on absolute crack. Like, this point, he either has to be like Jesus Christ himself, or he needs to make Aizen's betrayal look like the straight tomfoolery. Like Aizen didn't even know what he was doing if Shanks does turn out to be a bad. Shanks being absolutely shrouded in smokes and mirrors is what draws so many eyes to him, but let's be honest, right? Between you and me, it's just us. It can get really annoying at times. Like, you know when you really want Shanks to do something, or you think you're about to get a lot of Shanks, and Oda just dangles him on a carrot and then rips him away from us? Like, bro, do not get me started on the end of Wano. The end of Wano was the most frustrating thing. He literally was just there to promote Film Red. I do not care. But despite all of these frustrations, I believe Shanks is the key to the entire plot and unlocking the final large-scale plot actions and moments that will really ring in the end of the story. To begin though, we gotta talk at the beginning. And no, not that beginning. Shanks' purpose and theme as well are heavily based off Vikings, and obviously with Elbafs and the Giants, there's a lot of connections there to Norse mythology, and you can watch super in-depth videos on it, but essentially a lot of it has to do with his ship, the fact that he's missing an arm, and the relation to that. The main theory with Shanks and Norse mythology you gotta know is about Tyr, and Tyr being the god of war, law, and justice, and why Shanks could really be a representation of Tyr within the One Piece story, and we see this a lot in One Piece when they draw from other pieces of media, other pieces of legendary media as well, mythology. It's a very common thing that One Piece does, and I think it's really cool. I think anime does it a lot, and I think you can clearly see with Elbaf, as well as the fact that Dory and Bragi are giants, and giants and their connection to Norse mythology, and the fact that they're just straight up Vikings. You can clearly see that connection. So now that we have the basis for Shanks down, let's talk about some of the big things Shanks has done. First, he's on Roger's ship, and then the One Piece out of nowhere, he's just like, yeah, no, we're not going for it. We're not ready for it yet. And we don't know why. And we get a little bit more in like chapter 1080 or whatever with Buggy, how he just said he wanted to just be a pirate for a bit. We all know that's complete BS. We don't know why he didn't want to go after it yet, but we'll find out, hopefully. Just like we'll find out Zoro's backstory. 2, we know he stole the Gum Gum fruit from Hutu, and we do pretty much think he knew he had the fruit, and then he got the fruit stolen from him, and then he got his arm stolen from him, and then there's a huge lump of time missing where some stuff happened, but nothing too important. Then he warns Whitebeard about Ace. Then he talks to Mihawk about Luffy for a bit. He stops the war, then he snitches because he's a fucking rat, and then he promoted Film Red. He absolutely decimated Kid. Obviously, there's some other stuff that went on, but that's kind of like the key moments to keep track of. The only other thing you have to take note of is at some point he got cut by Blackbeard, and then he also destroyed Kid again for the first time. To be real, it feels like Blackbeard is almost mitigated in some regard. He's not as huge of a threat as he once was, it seems. Obviously, he is going to be the end-all be-all for Shanks, and I do think Blackbeard is gonna kill him. There's so many theories out there. You can go watch a video on it. I even have a video on it. Who doesn't have a video on Blackbeard killing Shanks? It just makes too much sense. The way the Gorosei were acting though when he snitched is the big thing that I think really told us that Shanks was so much more than we thought. And in chapter 1086, we get the info that his parents and family might be running the Holy Knights, and that Shanks is most likely a celestial dragon, which really does add up. Who else could stop the war, as well as who else could just walk into the Gorosei and demand them to listen to his information on a certain pirate? I think with those two factors, him being the strongest pirate and him likely being a celestial dragon or having some connection to them, a lot of the stuff that he did in the past makes a lot more sense. Oh yeah, and by the way, you might have heard me say he's the strongest pirate. Yeah, fuck Mihawk. I think Shanks is at least top 3 in the series, if not top 1. And let's just do a little intermission on what I think is going to happen with Shanks in the power scaling. I think right now Shanks is number 1, then he's going to get bamboozled by Blackbeard. Blackbeard will elevate to number 1, and then Luffy can defeat Blackbeard and he can become number 1 in the whole world. I think that makes sense, right? So like I was saying, Shanks is the only character that has that pirate and world government side, as well as the fact that he was on Roger's crew. So there's so many factors there of how much information he has and why he chose to wait so many years in order order to go for the gum gum fruit, and he probably knows why Roger was really sick, if there was more to that or not. And honestly, after all of this, like I was saying, Blackbeard feels like an afterthought. I believe though Shanks, despite his heritage, his side of the story is more so on the One Piece compared to Dragon, who is more so focused on the end all with Emu and that side of it with the Revolutionary Army and Emu and the world government and defeating them. Shanks is way more One Piece focused than the world government. When the fated battle between him and Blackbeard does happen, I do believe when he does perish though, before that, he will explain the true history of the Roger era and what really went on with Roger's death and the truth behind why they couldn't go after the One Piece. Like I was saying, what happened to the poneglyphs, who moved the poneglyphs, what is going on really, and what Roger was trying to accomplish. I think there's a duality there with him and Dragon. Dragon is just like Shanks. He's barely showed up in the story. He hasn't done much, but he's super strong. He has the highest bounty, and we know that he has some large significance and that he likely is going to be the one to tell us the truth of the Void Sent. Learn more about the background between the world government and what the world government had to do in the world. So I really like that duality there. And can you imagine? Can you imagine if Shanks and Dragon interacted? That would just be crazy. That would just be epicness on max if Dragon and Shanks interacted. Two characters who serve a very similar purpose, that have a super strong connection to Luffy, interacting in a way that will allow Luffy to elevate and become the king of the pirates, become the #1. And for someone to really have no screen time, to be as significant as they both are, is really telling. And I do think though Shanks is the end all key. And I think Shanks will almost tell Dragon pivotal information that will lead to the end of One Piece. Because if you think about it, Shanks knows way more about the One Piece than any other character. He's the only one that knows the history. And we saw this alluded to. The fact that Oda is showing us Buggy talking about why Shanks left now, after all these years. Now he is telling us that. As well as the fact that now the Holy Knights appear. They have identical formations to Shanks. There's even theories that they're family. It was alluded to in film rant. There's so many theories to be had about Shanks. I don't think anything can be said for sure other than the fact that one, he will die to Blackbeard's hand, and two, he is going to be the one that's going to set up the end of the story. And there's so much nonsense too with Shanks and Mihawk. It's so clear. Like, Mihawk is like a cool, sick character, and Shanks, it has to have a deep plot narrative that Mihawk just doesn't have. And I think Shanks is stronger than him. It just makes sense, man. It just makes sense. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave down below any criticism you have, any thoughts you had. Let me know if you think that Shanks is really as important as I think he is. So that's all I have for you today. We're just getting started. We're going to stay consistent, and I'll see you in the next video.